the whole mystique behind writing graffiti was bombing, getting up, or doing your pieces or whatever, and definitely getting over, and having the cops, wondering who the hell you were, or everybody else wondering who you were, and it was kind of like that whole masked man kind of thing.
It's sneaking about late at night and meeting up with people who you wouldn't normally meet up with, and meeting up with people from other countries and stuff.
And if you can get away with doing a wicked painting somewhere naughty, then it's all about. Imagine how you feel walking home from that. I've done something there, and someone's going to see that and think, wow.
We did trains, and you sit on a platform and you watch how people respond to the pieces. And you'd be surprised. I mean, it'd be something, straight up suit dude downtown, man. He's just looking at the piece and he's, following it with his eyes like he's amazed. And I'm wondering if he's amazed that something that big came out, out of an illegal production, or how did these guys do it, or is he really liking the piece?
That to me was like the driving element, and getting your name up and having your name in all sorts of mad places.
It's a blessing to come out here. I'm from Connecticut, traveling 16 hours just to paint a wall. If you tell some chick that, she'd be like, you fucking crazy. Something's wrong with you, you know what I mean? But to us writers, this is like the spot, Look at this wall, it's beautiful, it's nice, it's flat, it sucks the paint up.
It's really cool that the city supports them like that, We had a wall, our city took it away, so we just killed the city. I seen St. Louis, it looks pretty clean to me, the city. And that might be maybe just because of this wall.
When I first saw it, I hated it. I couldn't stand it. I was like, why are people writing on the walls?
You have something you want to offer, you want to share with the public, with the world. It's something, for them to appreciate.
This is real cool because, this way, other writers that you heard about, and you see them at work, and you're probably interested in meeting them. You can meet them here. You can network with other writers. You can check out some of the other writers' work and learn, pick up techniques. Not necessarily buy it, but pick up little stuff and you can improve your own work. Yeah, it's great.
Going all over, just traveling, meeting people, having a good time. That's what's basically more it's about to me, just having a good time. I paint with anybody.
Paint Louis actually originally started out as a pretty small local event. It was just a matter of writers locally calling each other up, getting a legal spot.
I've been through faces and places, pages, dangers, and ages, living my life on a day-to-day basis. Put my voice on tape, we'll remain ageless. I've been through friends and ends, children to men and girls to women, living in sin for the wrong decision. But for those I'd hurt, I'd like to make amends, cause if you don't, karma will get you in the end. Time is a present, time is of the essence, time is final. You can die with your title.
When I got introduced to graffiti art, I just fell in love with it, and I don't know, I'm into hip hop music a lot, and it just blends in real well, so it's just a part of my life, I really can't explain it no other way than that.
Well, just like with anything, when you're 15, when you're young, you're in your teens, you're like trying to find something to belong to, and this was just like, this was it.
Fame is probably what people want, recognition. You come to a jam like this and you tell somebody who you are, and they go, oh, that's you, huh? Yeah, I seen your stuff, It kind of makes you feel It makes you feel like you're a star to a certain point.
I was kind of like a DJ, used to paint, became an MC, you know, probably around 16.
You see the bloody Valentine to be walking in my sleep.
Well, I can't say we all do graffiti, but most of us, or some of us do in the group. And that's kind of like what the group is based on. It's like, when you look at graffiti and you're like, that looks dope, but what does it say? It's kind of like how our lyrics are. They're abstract.
I definitely think when you're talking hip-hop, you can't not mention graffiti. It is a part of hip-hop.
Well, in our crew, we got all 4 elements. We got b-boys, breakdancers, we got guys that flow, and we got mixers, plus we got graph. Like, basically, it's just a way to keep it real, because, I mean, to show that we're not, like, somebody that's just coming up from nowhere with just, like, just doing it because it's popular and shit.
Everything disappears through time. As the years disappear, stickers fall from the wall, even as my tag stops to shine.
To me, it's bullshit. Bullshit. Total bullshit. I don't see the correlation. The correlation between hip hop and graffiti, that's a media thing. They put all, and breakdance, they put that all in one package so they can identify it, put it in a box.
Oh, it's an honor, you know. It's like, wow, you know, it takes you back into time, you know.
It just happened.
Yeah.
I didn't know him. He wrote on the same line I wrote
But we've seen each other's work.
And the respect, you know, it's like meeting family.
Yeah.
You know, you see his name, he sees my name, we don't know each other, we write on the same lines. 20-something years later, we meet.
Now we're hanging out talking.
It's like we're family.
With you guys.
You know? It's like we're family, you know, because we had that same bonding of writing on the same line. There's a sound that's sweet.
Oh, yeah. Nice sound.
But if you've never hit a train and watched that shit go by, you're not a writer. You may be a graffiti artist, but you're not a writer. And we never really were. We were never really graffiti artists. We were writers. That's what we were, writers.
One of my favorite slogans was, on the New York City transit system, was, have marker, will travel. If I got a marker, I'm gonna travel. And on a daily basis, I hit every stop on every line. One stop at a time. I love it, man. I started in '69, man. There was another guy out there. His name was Taki 183. Another guy from Washington Heights area. He was a Greek kid, and he started a little bit before I did.
I hang out with Taki 183. I mean, he got to play for the first graffiti writer ever. He supposedly have started it. The reason why they said he started it is because Taki 183 was a messenger. And what he did was he would write his name on the elevators on the east side. All the writers from all the newspapers came from the east side. And rather than research the motherfucker, they could just say, there's a name. Who would know the difference? Just like real life. If they don't know, just write any old shit and just say it's this guy. But it just so happens the name clicked in.
I tagged on your ass. You tagged on my ass. Here. Look.
No, he's all right. I haven't seen him in 20-something years. Thank you.
Anywhere, just not next to the legends, bro. Look down there. Yeah, he got the.
Being a kid in New York, you kind of look at tags, and I started to put 2 and 2 together, and I realized that some of the names that I saw in certain places of the city were the same names in other places of the city. So I was kind of fascinated by the fact that the same name was in different places.
We just started writing in the year of 69, 70. By 71, we started hitting freight trains. By 72, we started hitting E's and F trains, GGs. Then the 7 train, tagging the inside, motion tagging with like tic-tac, little tic-tac containers with felt inside of it with ink.
I went to Baychester Lab, and I did singlets on every car on the red trains, but some of the trains were still here and there. You could actually catch the old black ones, where the paint would seep into the train. And I would put a singlet on every car, and then sit on the train station the next day after cutting out of homeroom class. And then sit there all day just to wait to see my single hit go by. That was good stuff.
Guys start realizing, okay, I gotta make my shit stand out, because now a lot of motherfuckers are doing this shit.
And then the singlet actually developed by coming a little bit larger and larger, and then someone actually put an outline very thin around it, and then we started calling it a masterpiece, which was stick letters.
That's the status quo for a while, until Super Cool 223 realizes that if you take the cap off of this stuff called Jif foam, which was like, what was it, carpet cleaner? Jif foam? He puts a Jif foam cap and he does a Super Cool, and it comes out this fat. The paint comes out of the can that fat. Once he does that, he actually takes the regular can and puts an outline around it.
This is not the first time I ever went painting, but this is the first masterpiece I ever did on a subway train, and this is in 1972. Actually, if I hold it still enough, if you look at the background, you can see that's the first beginning of pieces, because the other pieces are small, of the masterpieces, and on the rest of the car, all you see are single hits. So everything went from that point to this point to that point, and then this other name came along later and just made his a little bit bigger, and that's how masterpieces began and developed from single hits into that and expanded in 1972.
One of our first pieces on the 3rd Avenue wall, layups, the Kings, Comet and Blade. The only true Kings. They're just gonna fade away again. You gotta put that in that school.
Yeah.
Well, I remember this, we cut school.
Yeah.
We cut school at Evander Childs, with Robson Paint and Martin's Paint, and we bombed. In the daytime we did this, right in front of everybody on White Plains Road.
Yeah.
Because we're the true Kings, and still are, 30 years later.
Well, what Kings meant at the, even from the beginning, meant that your name got around most throughout the entire city. And it wasn't that you called yourself Kings, other people acknowledged you as King, because it was like, that guy's name is up. Anywhere you went, you saw that name, that means you were the man. From 1974 until 1982, Comet and I were the kings of the 2s and the 5 line. Undisputed.
Every car, both sides. Thank you.
Yeah. Which is true, kid, believe it or not.
Over anybody that was there, even our own pieces. We had no room, so we went over our own pieces.
Our own whole cars. There was actually a time. And from 1978 and 1979, we could actually stand on East 180th Street or Tremont Avenue at the last stop, and would actually see our names on 2 or 3 of every 10 cars.
Both sides.
You'd fit 2 or 3, sometimes 4 names like that below the windows on a car. And that's Style Wars, man, because you're with your best friends and you're doing graffiti side by side on the train together. But make no mistake about it, you're totally trying to burn your friend, the guy next to you. So, hence the competitive nature of the style, the actual lettering itself became very important, particularly when style masters like Phase 2 and Riff 170 started to and Tracy 168 started to you could say, raise the stakes.
I invented the overlapping 3D. Comet and I invented the Blockbuster, which is a duplicate of it on my wall behind me. Comet and I invented that in 1977. Another Blockbuster production. That's what we called them.
So all of these guys out here, they're doing all this graffiti and they're making their money, but I'm the true legend, the true king of bubble letters, the one who started it all. Tell the guys there, give them some props. Come on, I'll smoke my cigar while you can dictate.
He, Phase 2, and Jester were the 3 people that invented bubble letters, because it's already documented in
See how the truth comes out.
Right? Those are the 3 people that did bubble letters. First I've ever seen.
The beginning, the end, the king.
The fish stem.
The king. These are my first paintings. Hopefully out there, you can appreciate these. These are true collected items. This is going for $5,000. Act now, and you can get this one for $29.95.
What's the 1-800 number to call for that?
1-800-BUBBLE.
The only part that I can think of is Scene, man. He's got an excellent 6-line collection.
Yeah.
Look at this. Oh, you got the bag.
That's Fuzz. I got Fuzz.
Yeah, you got Fuzz?
Yeah, I know.
No, the Fuzz is from 7 line.
On the 4 line.
Four
4s,
line.
and then he started on the 4s and went to the 7s.
Right. What
Yeah.
happened to the Fuzzy one, man?
He's still around.
Yeah? Well, he don't come around here no more, man.
Yeah, well, a lot of graffiti artists, when they used to go into like these art centers and rob like Krylon paint, a lot of them seen those signature books with the black leather on it, and I guess the people started writing single hits, and then as time went on, pieces, and a lot of writers wanted to keep them for like memories, you know.
And at the time when everybody was getting into writing, doing piece books, most writers would sit on 149th Street in the Grand Concourse and writer's bench, and they would actually have the bottom of a page signed where they wanted you to put your piece in their book, which was really cool.
The bench I used to go to in Brooklyn was at Atlantic Avenue, and all the Brooklyn writers used to go there. The first time I went there, I went with this guy, Part 2, the one who started me writing. You know, when you meet a writer, when you know a writer, when you see him back in those days, had ink stains on his sneakers, and he all stood at one bench. And you know, we asked each other what we wrote, and when he asked me what I wrote, and I told him Fargo, he said, yeah, I've seen that around. Yo, that was it. I said to him, I'm getting up.
And this place was a place that all the graffiti artists used to go there to meet up, to talk about trains they'd done, or talk about a beef that they had with another graffiti artist, or somebody that just beat down, or they stole their paint from, they stole their black book. So it was a place to meet up. So when we first got there, you know, we were like, wow, this place is hardcore.
Wow, style, you know what I mean? This is great.
There's no correlation between hip hop and graffiti. One has nothing to do with the other.
Was when I was writing, there was no hip hop, there was none of that stuff. When we came along, we were listening to Sly and the Family Stone. You know, Vietnam War was going on. We're talking, early 70s.
That's when gas was like 50 cents a gallon.
Yeah,
and you could leave your doors open without murderers coming in. That was back in the 70s.
Rapping didn't even start until the mid-70s. That's like another 5 years later.
Well, at first, there was no rap. It was just DJing, and the DJ was at the forefront.
Say I grew up in the South Bronx, so like they were jamming around me in the parks. Like this was like some regular stuff. So it wasn't like you had to go to clubs to see it. It was just on the street.
When people would go to parties, they would say, "We going to a jam," or they jamming over on 100-something street in such and such a park.
So they used to actually like people like Grandmaster Flash used to come out, Disco B, Company, and a lot of other crews.
MCing really didn't come into play till like 75, I would say, really. And the media needed to coin a phrase from it.
Well, what we know for a fact is that hip hop was created by a white academic. I don't know if he was going to NYU, but the person who wrote the book Hip Hop, he created the concept out of the verbology that he was getting when he was interviewing people.
Fab Five Freddy introduced me to Africa Bambaataa, and Africa Bambaataa told me that the name of the culture was hip-hop. And that's the first time I ever heard the word hip-hop in my life.
Hip-hop was a word that was first coined by Keith Cowboy and made popular by Lovebug Starsky. It was like a bridge between what you were saying. Like you saying a rhyme, and then you get to the end of it and you go into the hip, the hop, the hip, the hop, and don't stop.
The first time it appears in print, as far as I know, is when I write my first article for the Village Voice on Africa Bambaataa. That's where I used the name hip hop for the first time in print.
He fastened on to this idea and and it's bizarre because I think a whole bunch of different things could have happened. I mentioned it here. And he put breakdancing, graffiti, and all these things in it.
Bambaataa was smart enough to realize that they needed an overarching name to describe the culture, what it was. And so he used the name hip hop. But the name hip hop had never been used by anybody else.
I never knew the elements. We never called it that. It was just like what you was doing, you know.
We were receiving this, media appropriated amalgamation of art forms that was selected through the subconscious of one kind of individual and his various interviews of all sorts of different people. And so, boom.
They put hip hop, break dancing, and rap music and graffiti and all this stuff together because it's something I guess they thought they could market through whatever the hell reason. But it has nothing to do with the original stuff when writing came along in 1970. It's got nothing to do with anything. That's all 80s stuff.
The first public thing that was done by that performance was done by me, and that performance in 1981 where I pulled them together. Nobody at that time, downtown New York, nobody outside of the sort of marginal neighborhoods where they lived knew anything about breaking or had even heard of it or seen it.
He managed to find breakers through graffiti contacts and set up the first kind of combination rapping, breaking, graffiti that I think there ever was.
I think that was one of the things that got into the public's consciousness that this was all the same.
We linked it in a way that it might, I don't want to say for sure, but it might not have ever become sort of packaged.
The minute they took it off of the trains in New York and we were forced to do walls is the minute that it went global and became a global art form.
It took off going to Europe after, you know what it is? The energy, you can't stop it, snowballed, baby. Anybody that comes here on a vacation gotta feel this energy.
That's what writing was all about, was getting your name from one part of the city to the other. And next thing you know, people in Japan know your name, and it's become a worldwide culture.
It hit the rest of America and Europe as a already kind of all-encompassing creative package. So that just drops some people's heads and they're like, what the fuck is this?
In 1982, Rocksteady Crew, Dondi, myself, Bambaataa, Fat Five Freddy, Ramel Z, Double Dutch Girls, a couple of other acts, all went to France and the UK on a tour.
This is the first tour that was a New York City rap tour that came to France.
And it came over from New York in that hip-hop breakdancing package that they sent over to us along with Future and The Clash. And couldn't breakdance, so picked up a can of paint and started painting. And that was it. From that moment on, fucked for life.
That was also the kind of beginning of, really everybody the beginning of the exportation of our, not exploit, but exportation of our culture.
There were three guys that came from New York, Peely, Fresh, Nick Salsa. They came from New York with, concepts of graph and concepts of b-boyism that they were able to spread personally through the community. And simultaneous with this was, of course, the media onslaught that reached the youth, around the world that spread the whole ideal of hip hop You know, it was a very utopian kind of concept, utopian concept in an urban jungle. Primarily, a lot of us in Chicago either got it through these individuals that were people from New York, or we got it from the films.
I didn't know about hip hop and rap or all these things, or even the term graffiti. Then came the movie Wild Style, and then everything was much clearer to me.
And Wild Style was the first one. I remember seeing Wild Style, and it was like, I knew about rap, and I knew about breaking, but it just opened up graffiti to me with Lee, and Lady Pink, and Zephyr, Fab Five Freddy, all those guys in there.
Wild Style, the entire movie was about the movement. It was about the newest and most powerful movement that was happening of that day, and that was hip hop.
Guys got a hold of like videotapes, and then they like studied it, and they froze the frames and stuff, and then they would like imitate the graffiti.
What's interesting is that we emulated the ideology that was presented in a lot of those films, which was not truly representative of actual hip hop or even, all these different art forms, that were collected together.
Wild Style is like a fantasy. It's not a documentary. Everything in Wild Style was made for the film. It was to project an image, and people saw that image and they carried it forward and built on that. But that wasn't really happening. That was just happening for the film.
I believe that Wild Style is the first time that all elements of hip hop were represented.
Charlie Ahern, that made Wild Style, was responsible for the linkage of these various forms together.
And so the hip hop that was created, I think, in many of these other towns and extensions was not truly a mirror image of what was happening in New York City. It was very much like a collective image of what these movies presented.
Something else that had to come. It was Beat Street, the movie. Then I knew I was into hip hop.
Everybody loves the real hip hop, let me hear you scream.
When I see Beat Street, I remember, yes, this is the real hip hop, I see the Rainbow Paint Trains and I think, oh, it's incredible, Maybe I can do this.
They had kind of this kind of graffiti in there, but it wasn't. It was all done by these cinema studio decorators.
It's very important to pay attention to who writes what and, who labels these things, because we didn't think about that when we were shorties. It means something that Harry Belafonte produced Beat Street.
Beat Street was garbage. Beat Street was some Hollywood person's idea of what hip-hop was, what was going on. And they had to add a whole lot of bullshit that was totally irrelevant to hip-hop.
But yeah, that was so whack, but at the same time it was still something else that you've seen, and you were going to try and include some of that in or not, was up to you.
What was really important was Style Wars. It was shown on television in 1988. And after this day, everybody starts to paint really.
It was only when I saw Scene doing that piece, from when it was like a blank wall to like when it was going dark and completely finished. It was only like when I saw that I realised what it actually took to get it done.
When you look at movies like Style Wars, you really have the impression that they are taking part in all the different disciplines of hip-hop. People were like DJing, MCing, dancing, writing.
I think in the movie Style Wars, they say it best, where they say graffiti has its counterpart in breakdancing and MCing or rapping. You're creating basically a multimedia triumvirate.
It was a false lifestyle. It was a false culture we got, because we just got the whole package nicely wrapped again. We got the breaking, we got the MCing, we got the DJing, and we got graffiti, and it was like, yeah, this is how it was. This is how it developed. Breakers kind of developed next to riders, and riders developed next to MCs and DJs, and that was, that's bullshit. That's like 100% bullshit. That we learned later on.
These things were not all cross-referenced at the time. That's the thing. Breakers in New York were not guaranteed to be graffiti writers, were not guaranteed to be rappers. There was way more different separations in terms of who did what.
You know, when it came over, it was so new. It's like the clothes were new, the music was new, the dancing was new, graffiti was new. We'd never seen it before, and it was just like, it was everything that kids my age wanted. It was like, you know, your mates get together, break dance, paint graffiti, have a laugh, and go mad.
When the culture kind of just landed that hard, I thought, well, you know, like, this has changed the lives of so many of these people who are hanging around here, like in Covent Garden, like totally into this. These people would never have met because there was no culture that could make of one place a kind of meeting ground for people from all sides of the city and even from outside.
You've just seen a fleeting glimpse of what graffiti is, like, and so you're trying to approximate what that is, like your own version of that, until you get something to actually like properly understand, you know.
You know, I was still getting my graphic influence from, you know, Beach Street and Wild Style and stuff like that. And then I saw Subway Art, and then it's like, yeah. You know, I took the next level, and you kind of learn about throw-ups. You kind of try and do those, and then you kind of like learn about piecing and try and do those.
The book was really what laid it out.
How it was done and what were the tools and, you know, the different kinds of caps that you could put on a spray can, the different kinds of colors.
As a result, it became sort of a Bible for kids who wanted to do it all around the world.
And in Subway Art, then we saw that tagging was also a very important part in that culture, and that you could also develop a style, you could have something, you could speak, you could create, express yourself through tagging. So then we start tagging.
You just saw that book and you just pored over it, you know, and you read the glossary and you boned up on the glossary and you boned up on who was painting and who was killing it, and you had your favourite writers in there and you discuss who your favourite writers were in there. And it just opened up some mad world that to this day I can look at things and think, how the hell did this start?
The artists in New York were obviously, especially the ones who were in it, were very proud of it.
Sometimes I feel bad that because I live on the Upper West Side, it was logical for me to photograph the twos and the ones. And those are the artists that, of course, I got to know. And meanwhile, out in Brooklyn and Queens, there were whole other sets of artists that I didn't photograph.
For just convenience reasons, we ended up going a lot more to the Bronx than we did to go to Brooklyn. And I don't think I ever went taking pictures on the 7 line in Queens, so I missed a lot of that.
Back in the days, it was so much of, oh, this is how it's got to look, like in a New York kind of idea. Yeah, all pieces needed to have kind of Vaughn Baudet characters. And it's only when there was this girl, this New Yorker, who was in Covent Garden, this is like late '84, I said, oh, is that your piece over there? That's really whack. And then I realized, shit, you know, like, perhaps I need to try and learn to do my own stuff.
Pretty much universally from its inception, people have been extremely intolerant of signatures.
Then he called it graffiti, which means to scratch into a surface. We changed the meaning in the fucking dictionary. It's no longer scratching into a surface. Now it's actually got some merit as art. Now they're gonna figure out how the fuck can we destroy it again. It's too powerful. It's crazy scary for them.
We're bombing every car down the line. We've got at least 2 or 3 shopping bags of paint each. And these 2 cops show up in regular DT, you know, undercover clothes. They start shooting the guns off in the air, and me and Common are running on the top of the trains to run, and we get to the end of the last car to train, and we actually jump off the top of the train down to the tracks and still kept hauling ass to get away from that situation. But then we went back the next day and then re-outlined all our pieces so it pulled out fresh Monday. Fuck the cops. Yes, gotta bomb and the pieces gotta pull out. They had the trains cleaned in '73, and then Mayor Beam came in, and he took all the buff trains and painted them silver with a blue stripe. After that happened, everybody just went ballistic, bombing all the trains. Through the '70s, no matter how much they kept buffing, there are so many thousands of kids bombing. You know, that was the whole thing. Just there's so many there's just no way to keep up with it financially for the city's budget.
It was like the ultimate cops and robbers, you know what I mean? Ultimate game of tag.
The New York City subways, that was the shit, man. It was the best. And they kept changing the colors on us. They went from a red train, then they tried different style trains on us. You know what made I'll tell you the truth, they said that you can't paint the new trains. It's bullshit. You gotta be a real rider. We had so many real fucking riders, there's no way they could have stopped it. They had to run some trains. If everything's painted, they have to have trains on the tracks. So that's how graffiti stayed alive. If you ain't got a lot of riders, they're gonna buff the ones that ain't on, and then they can run the ones that they have. You have to have more riders than there is running trains. That's all. If you have one more motherfucking rider than they have trains, it's gotta run.
I don't remember the year that it really ended specifically, but I remember, if I'm not mistaken, the statistics were up. Like 1 year they arrested 6 people the entire year, and then the year after that they arrested about 73 people. So the policing changed. I think that the fact that the security changed. A lot of people got older, people didn't want to take the risks, the laws changed.
The last car I saw painted was like in '89, and I think there was a lot less people riding in '89 than it was in '79.
I don't see it that much. And like I said, I don't hardly see graffiti that much on the streets that much, you know. I see a tag here and there, but it's not like in the old days when you had to fight to get a space, you know, when the whole New York City was covered with graffiti.
It's just a way of expressing yourself. Just think about this. I gave you art free of charge. When I hit the subway car and the car's traveling around, you get to see it free, right? You go to the museum, sometimes you gotta pay. I gave it to you free, man. They don't give me props. This is $1,000. That's why I hesitated to bring it out. If anybody's walking around with a G in their pocket, let me know. But this is $1,000. That's why I bring it out. You got Tracy 168. Original. And then over here you got Taki 183, man. You know, this is you can't get this, man. This is a limited edition. Collector's item right there, man. Stayed up all night making these circles, all night, just circle, 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 circle. I was dreaming of Cheerios all night, just circle, 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 circle. Circles was jumping over my head in the sleep at night. Yeah, man, but you gotta get a voice together. You gotta stay high. That Paranoid piece was bad. Tracy, Taki 183. That's bad.
How many hours, Wayne?
He's still around, huh?
How many hours?
Oh, you see, this man knows. See, another artist to an artist. He knows how many hours. Hours, man. See those circles, man? That's.
Although I'd been in a gallery prior to, let's say, the 80s, and I'd obviously been in museums, I didn't really have an understanding of the art world or any, like appreciation for it, perhaps. And so it's funny that it took, 81, 82 for our movement to totally transition from underground to now being a kind of a alternative artist movement.
In 81 and 82, especially 83 was a big year in which there were lots of art galleries in New York showing graffiti. Patty Esther, who was involved in the film, she was meeting graffiti artists through the film, and she started this place called Fun Gallery. And she started showing Dondi and Zephyr and Futura.
The idea of somebody standing behind an artist and saying, hey, what you guys are doing is really great. Maybe we should do this on canvases and we'll do a show. I don't think the initial thing was to profit off the kids.
I met a man, Henry Chaffin introduced me to him, named Yaki Kornblit. And he actually came and approached me and wanted to know if I could take stuff from subways and transpose it down to the size of canvas. And he thought that might be a marketable idea, and pretty much it caught on.
I think everything started from in 82, because there was a big show from many artists from New York, and the show was called Arte di Frontiera.
We as a movement started to do exhibitions on a regular basis in Europe. You know, we started, having a little network of people.
That changed because ultimately once the cat's out of the bag and we are doing an alternative show curated by Crash with various people in it, with sort of all the profits going to the artists, you have other galleries that started thinking, hey, well, this is hot right now. This is, we can sell this. And
at the same time, where they were trying to, create certain writers into artists, into marketable artists, they were also denying the ongoing onslaught of the culture, of the trains.
The galleries are assholes. I hate them motherfuckers. They're like a plastic imitation, thieving fucking guys that can't draw, and they tell you what they think art is. How the fuck are you gonna tell me what I'm doing is this? Oh, you're drawing like this. No, motherfucker, I'm spray paint my fucking name and this is what it is. I could tell them what it is. I hate when they tell me what it is.
here we all were like kings, queens, jacks, jokers of our realms, only to get into an art world where we were suddenly like private, we're all like nobodies again.
By 84, it started to slow down. By 85, it was dead.
The market dropped on that movement and people were just selling paintings for $50, $100, like there's a fire sale on anyone's work because it was certainly done.
Come on, get a canvas, man. They're going like hockey.
Galleries gravitate to what they can sell, and it was just something that played itself out.
Graffiti is very particular because whatever people might say, it's a form of art, you have lots of different things and sometimes beautiful things that are made. But you don't have any support, official support, or very rarely.
Not every city has a flood wall, and most cities are anti-graffiti.
It's great that St. Louis has that attitude. It's probably, I guess it's like the only city in the US that has that attitude right now.
They've had their chance, the galleries, institutions, and all that, to define and to look at what we've been offering for 30 years. They didn't get it then, they don't get it now.
The fact that a lot of kids did this, and then they started relating to it and started seeing some kind of camaraderie, I think that's kind of important. That's what made the culture.
That's the kind of, love and respect that we have for each other because, we are underground movement for the most part. So, when you come into town or, people know you or whatever, it's like, they're like, yo, come stay at the crib or, let's go out, let's go chill, let's do this, let's do that. It's kind of like being in the International Brotherhood of Boy Scouts or something like that,
They've come up and have their own magazines, their own videos, their own television stations on cable. And then in the future, we'll make our own museums, our own galleries, and make our own world. This is about us. It's not about, there's a big division between the generations. And there's been a big break. And there's a whole new future. And that deals with graffiti.
There's always a need to show this camaraderie, show this kind of power of the movement. There's always that kind of need. There's always the issues of, again, the past, present, and future. There's always a need for a forum.
But I like to communicate, to see people and speak. Because it's also a human adventure. It's not only about pictures and nice colors. It's also like, share experiences and things like that.
We know people all over the world. And that's very interesting because we can share ideas, we can share different views about graffiti, and as we have different approaches, as we're from different countries.
Like outside of graffiti,
most artists, they just want to do their art. They don't want to give anybody else contacts. They don't want to give anybody else information. They want to do their art and kind of keep it secretive. And graffiti, it ain't like that, you know? Like doing a production with people you don't even know, but you know their style, and you paint together and you come up with something bigger and beautiful.
I love that. I love that about it. And it all just really comes back to the walls and to the painting.
It's just amazing, yeah, you know, to see without our little network, yeah, how we can, you know, be like connected to the world. In fact, it's like the internet without the technology.
I look at it as inner city youth, you know, recreating, not only creating, but recreating their environments, the way they live, the way they communicate.
Graffiti writers challenge societal legalities that need to be challenged, and if we would accept them and accept the fact that most graffiti writers are children whose creative expression was frustrated in this world, right? Creative expression was frustrated. It's not nurtured in the United States. I don't know why graffiti is more accepted in places like Europe.
Because it gave us so much, you know, we had nothing. I think it's very important to keep that thing alive. For me, the things now, they are too plastic, they are too aesthetical. And the form has been lost. I believe if there was no trends, graffiti will not have that form. These guys, they used the trends, I mean the shape of the trend. They used the fact that they did not have so much time. They used the fact that they did not have so much colors. They could not mix colors. You know, so you have to use whatever. And okay, I don't like to be, you know, chased by the police, but I have to use it in a way.
From the illegality, that's where the energy comes from, you know. Well, no matter how beautiful a legal wall is, it's never going to have the same energy as a tag.
You know, as I knew about the complexity of tags, I found out that it was something very strong. And still today, like this, that guy Twist is a very good stylist, like Dash, and you have many different styles of tags. So it's an expression on itself, and it's something that I would like people to understand as well.
You know, the energy from graffiti writing comes from stuff that's in motion, that goes against the grain and against the law and against what your parents told you. You know, it's night missions, it's daytime missions, it's tagging on a packed subway train in front of commuters, you know? It's dripping ink. It's ink dripping down from your overfilled homemade pen. Now that's the energy of graph, and you know, that's something that just can't be replaced if you're sticking it in a gallery. So maybe that could be called vandalism, but vandalism as a positive, not a negative. You know, as long as you still got that illegal aspect, where people are doing it just for love, got nothing to do with money.
Paint every train on the transit veins, paint every wall in the hood, paint every heart, leave your mark on souls of the good. Replenish and never diminish till destiny's finished. Create what you please, do it all for free. Your monetary disease has no meaning to me. Weeds explode through the concrete overload. Whoa bro, speak forth not from what you do not know. Slap a cop, kill your television, kidnap your mayor, set forth your crews, rename our streets, our schools, increase joy, melt shame. Children heaven sent, independent of hateful mind frames. You'll let them bloom, give them room. Send the best teachers, plumbers and preachers, wisdom holders, movers and shakers to educate our breakers. Hip hop's what I love by, live by, hug my, give my, spray my, break my, create my, innovate my, serenade my, dance my dreams on the streets of the shy. Reinvigorate, elevate, re-enfranchise, shop rock, see the world through a shorty's eyes.
Sporadic curves, double lines as they intertwine. Sharp swords with the slice as we intend to present the world's most greatest gift. Graciously uplift, so run tell your family they were wrong. The duration of style, arrows of ours will forever pierce armor, and anything to throw at us like rust on a boxcar. This travels far from a far off place in front of us. Now it stands silent as it rumbles through the night, as end to end creeps. A clean sweeps as we infiltrate like viruses, call gatherings like Cyrus. In the middle of the day we spray slave fools who try to infiltrate. Step crown villain vigilante, vandalizing while I'm decorating your city visually. Under the influence while I'm behaving like an animal.
The smell of Montana paint is an aphrodisiac to this maniac ready to attack. Getting high under city lights, ghetto bush take flight. I just signed my second end tonight. As we skill and rock, we stopped and had a smoke and talk about how we fools on the west would jock. Cause we rock all on the side, went downtown, ran into my man King 125.